This was the shift where we talked about the people whisper about so we can start living it with courage and courage.
I was 18 years old in London and I was literally at the top of stairs. And guess what? I suddenly felt somebody push me. And in that moment, very nasty, straight down all these stairs, I found myself in a wheelchair. I'm a Rajput, so it was actually the inner warrior in me that said, "Ke abhi karke dikhana hai." If it's okay for me to ask, previously that you'd had a very transformational experience that happened to yourself?
10 years back, I was in Africa and I was working very well, back to back meetings. Everything was going great. And suddenly in the morning, I started to do my work and I got kidnapped. So I was kidnapped for 48 hours. I didn't know whether I'll able to come out alive, whether I'll able to see my daughter again, whether I'll be raped or I'll be gunshot. I had no clue. No food, no water, only tears coming out. Hello and welcome back to the final episode of Motherhood Unplugged. I'm Dr. Richa, an education leader, COO, and a conscious mother. Today, we are talking about something deeply personal, not success and not the balance, but the power of reclaiming your own story. Because every woman here knows one truth: transformation is rarely gentle, and you would agree to that. We live inside a pressure cooker of expectations, the ticking biological clock inside our body, the quiet judgment times when we are too ambitious, the loud guilt when we are not enough. And when all of it hits together, it doesn't just challenge us or challenge you, it breaks you open. And that breaking point, that is where the leadership is born. Let me say this clearly today. Adversity is not a detour. Yes, you heard it right. Adversity is not a detour. It is the training ground for the transformational leadership. For a woman, transformation often demands that she unlearns the belief that she must be the nurturer first and the professional later. It demands that she learns this radical truth, which is your ability to rebuild your own life becomes your greatest leadership skill. Because adversity does something very, very powerful. It strips away what is performative, it silences what is borrowed, and it leaves you with what is real. And the leaders born from this fire become very authentic because they don't lead from theory, they lead from survival. Very, very informative, more innovative because once you rebuild yourself, you are no longer afraid to rebuild broken systems. More purposeful because you stop chasing applause and start building legacy. So, welcome to The Shift. And that is why today's conversation is not just about leadership in boardrooms. It is about leadership that is first forged in silence, in survival, and in rebuilding. It's my honor to now formally welcome a woman whose journey embodies exactly what this episode stands for. Dr. Minha, she is a medical director in Curaidh Clinic, Dundee, Scotland. She is a Cambridge trained clinical scientist and fellow of the Royal College of Physicians, London, is transforming the way we understand pain, injury, and unexplained illness. With multi-speciality expertise from Manchester, Dundee, and London in rheumatology, pain, occupational environmental disability medicine, Dr. Meena also holds UK registrations in osteopathy and naturopathy medicine. Her leadership and scientific collaboration in the NHS, Armed Forces, Veteran Services, safety, critical, corporate, and independent sector have resulted in over 100 co-author publications, keynote presentations, policy engagements, including World Health contributions. Following major life events, Dr. Meena founded Curaidh flagship tertiary referral and training center of medicine in Scotland, which bridges medicine with traditional healing, leading via data-led clinical pathways with growing global physician partnership, enabling patients and their families navigate the complexities of healthcare towards sustainable outcomes. So I really wish to welcome Dr. Meena. Welcome on the shift.
Thank you so much. It's a real delight to be here.
I'm so happy that to have a woman on the show like yours. I'm really, really excited for the next section of our show, The Shift. So are we ready for the real talk?
Well, let's go for it.
Okay, that's lovely. So this is the real talk section where I want to touch base on certain areas of your life, which I want, if you are comfortable, to come out with that and show our audience what you have gone through in adversity, what you have gone through in your life, and what you are today is the outcome of your past. So I want to touch some sensitive part of your life journey, if that is okay with you.
Well, if you don't ask a question, who knows?
Okay, let's do that then. Dr. Meena, when I was preparing for today's conversation, one thing is I was really, really excited and I was very cautious because there are certain nomenclatures we being educationists doesn't understand. So sorry if I have misspelled or mispronounced something. But one line from a newspaper lecture about you stayed with me and it says, rising from adversity to inspire other women. Yeah. And I want to pause there for a moment because adversity doesn't automatically make us strong. Some people survive it quietly, some people get stuck in it, and some, very few, transcend it and return as leaders. So, you have always been a very dignified about what you went through. So today, I don't want to revisit that trauma for you. That is not my intent. But instead, I want you to talk about the choice because there is always a moment where pain asks question, difficult question. So, and that question is like, will this define you or will you define yourself through this? So, I want to know, when did you realize that your adversity would not be your identity, but would instead become the force that shaped your purpose?
I was 18 years old in London, so freshly arrived in London. And I remember it was a Green Park tube station. And I was literally at the top of the stairs. And guess what? I suddenly felt somebody push me. And in that moment, very nasty fall straight down all these stairs and landed in a very awkward manner, shooting pain, searing pain in a really bad way, with a lot of injuries, basically. And since we're talking about choices here, so long story short, I found myself in a wheelchair, having required a lot of surgery, a lot of medical intervention. This is mainstream medical intervention. And the question was culturally, well, it wasn't, the question was not, when is Minha at that time? I wasn't a medical doctor. Minha, 18-year-old. It was about who's going to marry this cripple. And it wasn't about when is she going to get better. And I found that very challenging. Why? Because being in a wheelchair, the social stigma is there. There are a lot of discussions about her future being ruined. There's that level of anger, shame, fear, all coming together. And then let's fast forward.
Before we fast forward, Dr. Nina, you touched upon one point where we are talking about social stigma.
Ah,
Okay, and a taboo.
right. You certainly got the point. Yeah.
An 18-year-old girl who has dreams in her eyes
Yes.
and suddenly found her in the hospital on the wheelchair.
Yes. Yes.
You must have gone through a lot. I can't even imagine the pain you might have gone through. But how society reacted, how your parents reacted to it, and how you overcome that problem and made it to your strength. I just really want you to go back to that point and tell us this. What did you do to manage that societal expectations and the taboo?
From a parental perspective, I was extremely grateful and I'm very fortunate that my parents have always been supportive, especially the women in my family and my dad. very progressive. We use the word himmat in Hindi. Beta, keep your himmat, keep your resolve, keep your resilience. Hearing these words gave me a lot of comfort, gave me a lot of strength.
So ये हिम्मत आप में कहाँ से आई? स्पिरिचुअलिटी की वजह से आई, पेरेंट्स के सपोर्ट की वजह से आई, या आपका खुद का डिटर्मिनेशन वाज सो स्ट्रांग दैट यू वांट टू स्टैंड अगेन ऑन योर फीट एंड प्रूव टू द वर्ल्ड
Yeah.
that I am still alive?
Literally stand up on my feet. It was actually from I'm a Rajput, so it was actually the inner warrior in me that said, "Ke abhi karke dikhana hai." Well, I've got to face this challenge. I do not want to be a victim. I want to be a victor,
Wow.
so to say. And it was purely because I was actually fed up of listening to people's chit chat about this Vichari syndrome, so to say, and writing me off and making all sorts of comments. And so from one day I'm this because I'm quite tall, and it was lovely, she's a very tall, 18-year-old who's going to be going to university, and he's suddenly, made to go completely rock bottom to be this person who's literally labeled as their illness or labeled as their disability, and you're like, no. So actually, it was the anger, it was initially the shame and the guilt that was then transformed into anger and a fight for justice for myself to say that, you know what, I'm going to show these people who were there were some visible people and there was also the invisible narrative. They say that I can learn how to walk again. I can get back on my feet, uh, figuratively and literally as well. Yeah.
Awesome. So sometimes it's very important to get these kind of people in your life because they are responsible for you to become diamond. I think so.
Well, no piece of coal becomes a diamond without any pressure. So,
Wow. So that is the way to say, gratitude to those people who helped you to become what you are today. So because without them, I don't think so we would have been here where we are today.
they played their part.
They play their part in the life. So in the long run, I think it's a message to all our audience too that don't feel that they are your enemies. I think they're your strong friends who are helping you to become what you are today. Lovely.
I would agree. It's a bit like, a teacher who really wants to see the potential in you. I'll just give you an example.
Yeah.
Where sometimes you think a teacher's being very strict, with you, or you're an educationalist, yet you can see the potential in that person, and you go the extra mile. So I always think of it in a very compassionate way. It takes time and effort, you get there.
Okay. And that leads me to my second question, which is more about the difficult teacher or the teacher which usually we don't like in our life. So this is like something every woman listening needs to hear from you today. True strength is not just enduring pain. True strength is learning how to redirect the energy of pain into creating something meaningful. This is the most important form of entrepreneurship, which is to build meaning from what once wounded you the most. So, you used your adversity to inspire your professional life. If you had to give that experience a name, not illness, what would you call that unconventional mentor or the tough teacher that helped you to rise in your life?
Wonderful, wonderful. I've actually got several names for these scenarios, depending on what stage of life I've been at. About 5 years ago, so quite recently, I had another severe accident that had left me with some nasty, not only orthopedic injuries, also neurological injuries. So I'd had two what we call transit ischemic attacks, TIS, that like mini strokes. So coming back to that experience and that tough teacher, it it made me actually become very grateful for the times when I have been able to do things and regained my abilities to talk and to see and to move again. So I would say my tough teacher's name, yeah, going back to being a phoenix, rising from the ashes, and to say that just show up. the first thing is to do is just show up. The first step is what makes a difference, and everything else will follow. I have to add, the other tough teacher that I did learn was that of asking for help, which culturally, I just felt it was me. I thought I could do it all by myself. And I was so almost blown over when all I had to do was just open this door a little bit to say, I need some help. And people's kindness and people's sincerity just shone through. And in being able to ask for help, you got to almost connect yourself out of. Yeah, and so I guess the self teachers have been a number of factors come together. It's about living in the now and present and knowing that I am where I need to be now in my life and to make the most of it. It's no use ruminating.
Acceptance is very important.
Acceptance, exactly, yeah.
So most of the time we live either in the past or in the future, and we forget that it's present.
Sure.
And present needs acceptance. Once you accept where you are and what you need to do, probably you can chalk out your future plan.
Totally.
So that's, I think, very, very powerful, honestly. So you accepted the fact that you have met with the second accident. You have lost your sight temporarily. You have got some neurological problems. What did you do at that time? And how did you again raise from that adversity?
And this is one further messaging, therefore, in response to what you just mentioned. I think this is I hope it's a valuable lesson that I learned that I'd like to share. Is it's very easy to go back into patient and victim mode. And at this point in time, I was a Cambridge trained clinician scientist, had won international awards, looked after many patients. And here I was sitting in the corridor of the hospital, you know, in the line to be called for my next appointment. And I thought to myself that I've I've had I've had so much experience in looking after other people. I've just managed to accept that I'm here and that I also need help. And what is it that I should be asking for was my first area. Yet it took me a good 18 months, and it was actually strangely enough another fall. And this was literally at home, the staircase at home, where I ended up falling and I had to, I remember, pick up myself because there's nobody at home at the time, stuff my leg in Scotland, which is where I'm based. I had a snow boot, stuff my very mangled leg through a lot of pain and of course a lot of tears into my boot and get into my car. Luckily, my car's an automatic, so I didn't have to use my left foot very much, and drive myself to the hospital. Now, it was only after a whole load of X-rays were taken that I was released, and they said actually it doesn't look too bad. You put me in a moon boot, and I was at home recovering. 10 days later, I thought to myself, "Hang on, things are not right." So I arranged, an MRI scan through a colleague who saw me professionally, and it turned out that I had 6 fractures and a fracture dislocation of this left ankle. And the orthopedic surgeon was a bit surprised because he's like, "Why wasn't this picked up in the hospital?" And I said, "I don't know." And I realized it's because I put myself back into victim mode at that time. I hadn't asked enough questions. Long story short, I was able to get back into my heels in less than a month. And so what I'm trying to say is that I realized that I had to come out of victim mode. And it did cause me a certain element of distrust, I have to say, in the medical system at some point. Because I thought to myself, hang on, I'm having to fish myself out every time I got injured. Yet then I realized that one size doesn't fit all. And that was an epiphany moment. It was an absolute game changer moment when I realized that why am I having all these falls? Why am I having all these accidents? Why am I having to go through the same lesson over and over again?
Yeah.
And to see the pattern, to understand that, Minha, stop being a victim, learn from these experiences. And until I don't learn from those experiences, they'll keep on repeating themselves.
Doc, what you're saying, it's really giving me goosebumps. Listening from a doctor who is a medical director, who understands the medical system, has to go through so much. And even the doctors could not find out that you have got 6 fractures, and it's your own wisdom and knowledge. You could able to gather that courage to say, I have some problem. Imagine if doctor has to go through this. What's going to happen to the people like us who have zero knowledge of medical science? And what message you want to give it to the audience?
Number one, things happen. You've got to accept them. We've got to live in the present as much as possible. We've got to be able to ask for help and not be shy, embarrassed. All these horrible emotions that people feel. It's easy, and you can feel them, and not just say that you got to block them out. Please feel the emotion, accept it, and say to yourself, you know what, I can get back to an area of neutrality and courage. Yeah, so tough lessons that has actually been transformational.
Enjoy entrepreneurs journey too.
Into an entrepreneurial, very unexpected entrepreneurial journey, I have to say.
So medically, I think you have really, really summarized it so well. But as a layman, because I'm not a medical doctor, because I going to give few things which I could able to learn from your experience and my experience too, that never leave the hope,
Indeed.
and that has to be very, very strong.
Yeah.
You have to be very strong minded, and you have to accept what is happening now at present
Yes.
and see where you want to be, and
Totally.
definitely universe will help you to reach out where you want to be. So I think strong mindset, never leaving hope, asking for the help from the right people rather than entering into a victim mode.
Yes.
Plus asking questions, especially I'm not saying that we should ask we should do chat gpt or we should do Google while going to a doctor, but it's our responsibility to understand our own symptoms, to able to ask that several questions to a doctor, so that because you are the best person to analyze your own body rather than the doctor.
Well, if anything, it's going back to what he said about using ChatGPT and AI. I welcome patients somehow bringing their ChatGPT questions to me. It takes a bit of time to go through information.
Absolutely. And
So yes,
I think we all should.
and I encourage my medical colleagues to try to perhaps adopt a little bit more.
Oh, that's so beautifully said, Dr. Meena. It reminds us that sometimes the teachers that change us is the most don't have arrive greatly or gently. They arrive to rebuild us from inside. And those accidents and understanding your pattern, I think, was your greatest teacher. So, Dr. Meena, today you work at one of the most profound intersections of medicine. You see women who carry stress in their bodies. You see pressures erupt as illness. And in many ways, you are not just treating symptoms, you are treating unspoken stories from everything you have seen and experienced. So, what is the single most important lesson you teach women about protecting their peace and to protect their health?
This is a fabulous question because really this is what I do day in, day out. uh, whenever I have a consultation, the first thing I do is we always do literally a 10-second, almost like, let's take a breath and say, look, the patient before you or the patient after you, whichever way, is not in my head now. This is your appointment time, and we're going to focus on yourself. Women especially have been, and I say this in a very kind way, uh, across the globe, majority of cultures, women have a condition because we're nurturers to put others first.
Yeah.
And it's about just having that little conversation and say, it's okay for you to be able to put yourself in the driving seat. Yeah, literally in the driving seat. I also use the analogy of filling your cup. If you haven't filled your cup enough, you can't fill another person's cup.
You connect with your patients first.
The connection is very important. Trust is extremely important. That's when these unspoken stories start to come out. And of course, no patient names given. I recently had a lady who was on the brink of surgery, and it was almost like I was a little bit, almost like I was cautious about taking on this particular patient. We found out that the reason that she was in so much pain was of an event that happened in her life that she witnessed. She wasn't even part of the event. She happened to witness an atrocity taking place, and that's what had led her to internalize a certain dialogue, so to say. So it's yes, creating a safe space. Of course, you've got to do good medicine. Good medicine is the foundation. In fact, I think it's literally the very bare minimum. I've got to exclude organic reasons for why a person's got pain. I've had cases, and look, I have nothing against mother-in-laws. I have to say this disclaimer. I have, a daughter-in-law who's unwell, and she can hardly get out of the bed. And then this is when people start, getting into patterns of addiction to help them cope through things. And then that's another layer of the onion. Yet, in order to think out of the box, you got to be a combination of two. You got to be brave and a little bit mad. And I think I'm a combination of two. Maybe it's all this life lessons that has pushed me in this direction to say that you have to be karke dikhana hai. You have to be, which in other words means that I'm not just going to say I'm going to do this, and I've also got to. So I'm going to demonstrate by action, and I also have to be able to think beyond what is the obvious. And it's, yeah, almost like feel, what is happening? What's the essence of this patient's consultation? I also go to the point of asking myself, why is this patient sitting in front of me today here? 11 o'clock morning appointment. Why didn't they come to see me yesterday? Or why aren't they seeing me here tomorrow?
Such a powerful reminder, doctor. We live in the world obsessed with quick fix. We just want to do jugaad. There's no quick fixes. We want instant cure.
Instant cure.
Yeah. And instant results, instant validations. But real healing is slow. It is layered, the way you said. You have to unlayer the onion to reach to the cause. It is holistic.
It is holistic, yeah.
Yeah. And maybe the deepest reframe we all need is this: our worth is not measured by our output, it is protected throughout our well being.
If it's okay for me to ask, you had mentioned previously that you'd had a very transformational experience that happened to yourself. And therefore, again, I'm repeating the same words that you said earlier on, with what you feel comfortable sharing in this moment. Over to yourself.
Thank you. I think this is very, very emotional and nostalgic thing for me because I've gone through the phase of my life where I was broken. So what happened? Like 10 years back, I was into my uh, journey to Africa. I was in Africa and I was working very well. Day before that incident, I was into meetings, back to back meetings. Everything was going great. And suddenly in the morning, I started to my work and I got kidnapped. I just heard the word kidnapped until then. I never experienced and thought that I will go through that. So I was kidnapped for 48 hours and I didn't know whether I'll able to come out alive, whether I'll able to survive that moment, whether I'll able to see my daughter again, whether I'll be raped or I'll be gunshot. I had no clue. First night, I was just screaming and asking for help that can somebody help me, realizing that there is no heart which is listening to me. No food, no water, only tears coming out. And next day I realized even if I cry, even if I sob, even if I realize that I need to see my daughter and whatever designations I am carrying at this moment, that's not going to help me. What's going to help me is my own control. I cannot control the outside world, but what I can control is my inside world. And that shifted everything in me from that day. I started looking inside. People usually say outside first and then inside. And then I became a leader who started looking inside first and then the outside. That they taught me that no designation, no power, no money can make you live the present. You just have to control yourself. And that moment shifted everything, Dr. Meena. And that helped me to say that I took a oath that day. I will be a leader who will be an empathetic leader. I will be a mother who will be a conscious mother. And I will be a human being where I'll connect people at the human level. And I'll try to give my best as a human being to the people rather than just the profit oriented, money oriented businesswoman. So that's my story. I think I have never shared it earlier in any of my uh, channel anywhere, but it really changed me as a different woman altogether. So yeah, that's my story.
May I invite us to take a moment of breath?
Yeah, I think we're busy right now.
What you've shared is very, very powerful. Gosh, I can only just appreciate you as a human being, as a person, and as a tour de force. You're literally making come true what you promised yourself that day.
Yeah, so that I think all these incidents, the way you mentioned what you have gone through, everybody has gone through something different in the life. And you would reach to a point of fear where you think it's impossible, where you think, and after coming out from that, your own people telling you were mad going to that place.
Right.
Your decisions were wrong.
Right.
You should not be doing this job. And you take a stand for yourself and say, no, whatever happened taught me something, made me strong, but I want to do something for other women now who are going through something. And that was my purpose and that was my motivation to stand because I have a daughter. I want to give a lesson to her. Whatever come into your life, take it as an experience and build yourself as a better version of yourselves rather than in a victimized mode. We should not be. We have all those powers, we have all those intuitions which can help us to become better version, better collaborator, and we should utilize this to help others, grow others, rather than just victimize and say, sorry, I have gone through a lot, I'm not going to do this. So I think that mind shift happened after that incident in my life.
But there is also a terminology that's called medical gaslighting. And that's prevalent and especially for women. Women are the most gaslighted group.
Yeah, overall, I was labeled. I was labeled as a bad mother. I was labeled as a bad wife. I was labeled as a only career-oriented woman who has nothing to do with her family. And I had to choose. I reached to a stage in my life where I had to choose whether you can choose your family or you can choose your career. What money you're bringing on the table is zero or has no worth because you are playing with the family system. And I got to a point in my life where I decided, really, is it only money or is it about doing something good for the people and how I can be labeled as a bad mother? I didn't do anything bad intentionally to my daughter. I didn't do anything bad for my family. My intent was all good. And that time to stand for yourself, and I want to tell this openly to all the women, it's your responsibility to stand for yourself. Nobody else will come to validate you, to stand for you, and to say, you were right. It's you who have to stand and say, no, this is my decision. I gonna stand. I gonna prove it right.
Yes.
And what help you is the strong mindset.
Totally.
And that's it.
Gosh, and again, the word champion is, I mean, again, the parallel, a word champion is what comes through here. Once again, you got to be your own champion. So you got to be your own driving seat.
So with this, you are saying, no, this because of our past, we try to act something in a similar way. So I'm writing one book on memory-based parenting.
Okay.
So a lot of parents act or react on the basis of their past memory,
How interesting.
which has been given to them by their own parents. Yeah. And time has come when we need to reshift or shift that memory-based parenting to present-based parenting because generation is different. You cannot lead this generation on the basis of the learnings you have got from your mother. Oh, and that's not possible, right?
You said the other keyword here, generational. Well, generational, and look, I'm not a parenting expert. I have to, my disclaimer. As a doctor, you see generational trauma. I mean, nowadays we're so happy and good to upgrade our iPhone. I have no ads, for iPhone. So to say, our phone. We're so happy to upgrade our iPhone. We go our Wi-Fi router will get the next version of faster broadband, etc., etc. Yet we are stuck in certain ways. And I usually use the word stuck. What is keeping you healthy?
All right, Dr. Meena, we have spoken about deep, deep things. Very, very quickly. Survival, healing, leadership. Now it's time to lighten up the energy of the room so that our audience also get that light energy, but still meaningful, but will be very, very fun in nature. So we have now the game number 1. So are you ready for our first game?
You've got to be ready for fun.
So I call this like first word that comes to your mind. You don't have to overthink. You don't have to think twice. And this is a very, very simple game. I'll say a word and you'll tell me the first word that flashes in your head. No thinking, no editing, just raw, honest answer. So ready? Ready.
Let's go for it.
Okay, lovely. So my first word is ambition.
Focus.
Focus. Adversity.
Teacher.
Okay. Self-care.
Oxygen.
Okay. Success.
Alignment.
Alignment with yourself. Okay. Inner voice.
Compass.
Compass. Yeah. Okay. That's lovely. Compass and truth. I love the diagnosis. Yeah. 100% honesty, zero hesitation. So thank you, Dr. Meena, for this being very, very raw, candid, and real. So this is now we are moving to the fun segment. That's game number 2, which is my next chapter prescription. So you are an expert at prescribing health to the patients. This game is called My Next Chapter Prescription. I'll give you a scenario for an ambitious woman. Yeah. And you have 15 seconds to give her a quick, actionable prescription, little quick piece of advice.
Right.
And I gonna touch something very, very a topic which probably women would love to hear. So I hope you'll able to prescribe something for that woman too.
As long as it's anonymized and of course no names are mentioned. And yes, is the whole idea.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes. So my first question and the scenario would be there is one female who is feeling guilty about prioritizing her business over her social life.
Mm-hmm.
What prescribe will you give?
The question is, whose voice are you hearing?
Okay.
Actually, and that's really important. Whose voice is it? Who's telling you that you're not good enough? And that's really important. So, first thing is whose voice. Number 2, have a good business and you'll have a rocking social life. Really. Number 3, I would say, is that try to incorporate people in your social life who will actually be your supporters for your business. So 3 things. Yeah.
Lovely. So rapid again. Now my second scenario would be lady come to you. She has a husband at home, a life on the outside, but inside she feel emotionally abandoned. No affection, no attention from husband. It's emotional neglect in a marriage as damaging as betrayal. And what advice would you give to that female? And do you meet this kind of patients? Or
I would use the phrase actually, and we might need a double appointment for this one. So 15 seconds is perhaps no justice to this. And I would say literally a double appointment where still waters can run very deep. And when I say still waters, one of the areas that I find is to say that, yes, silence can be almost a mask for a lot of challenges that a person is, internal battles, if I put it this way, that a person is facing. And should that person not have a way of channelizing that way of being, it can actually be quite self-destructive for a woman. And I know this is a very women-centered program. For a woman to have a partner, let's just say, so not even a husband, a partner of some sort. So let's be broad-minded. From let's say broad-minded. Let's just be looking at the possibilities, because this is an international program as well. To not have that level of support, in the person who's possibly the closest to her, apart from her own biological family, it creates a certain shell, a certain level of potential self distrust, because we are emotional beings, and whether we know it or not, or whether we have been taught about it or not, it is a mind body spirit connection. So it's a tough one. I feel often when we have a case of a patient who feels that they can tell me about what's happening beyond their medical symptoms, so to say, beyond what seems to be the obvious, it's really important that they get some good, not only medical support, but actually some good mental health support. And that's to come in the form of what they can, first of all, do for themselves. Mindfulness, we have so many.
Because Dr. Rina, most of the times, women herself doesn't acknowledge.
And yes, actually, thank you for reminding me. It's about, so having the candid conversation in a safe space can allow the person to, going back to what we said, accept, and then being able to direct them to the appropriate resources that they can start doing even before they are ready to go and talk to another person, ideally a psychotherapist or a professional. So almost like we would have to really meet the person where they are. And you're right, a person might not even realize that they're, it's what we call the frog, the boiling the frogs analogy. You put a frog into a boiling water, it'll suddenly jump out, right?
Yeah.
But if you put, I wouldn't want to imagine this, but it's an experiment. You put the frog into sort of cold water, and you're slowly putting it.
Be able to manage that.
The frog will be able to manage. So sometimes people do not even realize that they're that frog. My professor in Scotland who trained me, he's no more with us. God bless him. Professor Paul would often say, he would say to me, obviously I was a medical student at that time, he'd say, Minha, you're using very good analogies. We call these minhalogies. So it's a tip. So yeah, so either you have the frog in the boiling water, they don't realize, or then you have a fish where there's a leak and drip, 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 they are losing part of themselves.
So with this analogy,
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, what does that emotional abandonment? Because they're not realizing it, but this is happening in the system.
Yeah.
Do to a woman in terms of the sense of herself, to her confidence, her worth, and her identity.
And you will see people slowly beginning to neglect themselves. They will neglect the very basics of human existence. Eating on time, sleeping on time, because they're waiting for the partner to join them for a meal. Partner's like, okay, I'm busy at the office, and will not make an effort to come and have a meal together. So the lady says,
Okay, so with this analogy,
yeah,
I just want to ask you, what does that emotional abandonment? Because they're not realizing it, but this is happening in the system.
Yeah.
Do to a woman in terms of the sense of herself, to her confidence, her worth, and her identity.
And you will see people slowly beginning to neglect themselves. They will neglect the very basics of human existence. Eating on time, sleeping on time, because they're waiting for the partner to join them for a meal. Partner's like, okay, I'm busy at the office, and will not make an effort to come and have a meal together. So the lady says, okay, it's okay, I'll just have some toast, or the meal's ready, but it's gone way past dinner time, and an anniversary's been forgotten. The food's there, and they're like, oh, I'm not hungry anymore. Maslow's hierarchies of needs. There'll be, sleep disruption, because they're obsessively thinking, oh God, he's going to call any moment. I should be there to answer the text. These are real life scenarios, so to say. Or then indeed, doom scrolling, or then also, again, where are they on the scale of emotions? When they see something very nice on TV and they see a romantic relationship being, perhaps portrayed, and they suddenly go into sort of, oh, I remember the first time we met and it was so lovely. What have I done wrong? and they start asking themselves that question, or then even self-doubt. We have then women going into some very difficult scenarios, and this could be a topic for further conversation, where body image issues start to creep up. Am I not looking good? Am I not doing, what I write? Is this why this person is emotionally no longer available, so to say? And then that can lead to some very disruptive behaviors, eating disorders as well, that can occur as a result of this. Yeah. So,
Whole range of females are going through a whole lot of west to worst right their life because of not getting emotional bonding from their partner. Yeah, this is what I want to bring in light in my next episode or in the next series. I think because women is suffering with us, and men not realizing that it's unconsciously or without any intent they are harming
harming.
the woman well-being.
I would also add, if I may say, and this is perhaps, again, for your next series, where, and look, for any person out there, and this is just to say that we have brought, purely as a matter of the conversation, quite a sensitive topic forth, that if there's one person you can confide in, usually the familiar stranger, is a doctor who creates a safe space you can go and see. And of course, just bearing in mind that we may never meet, so to say. Yet my humble request is, start writing a journal. Start writing a diary. Practical. These are things you can start writing a journal, a diary. If you want to even read it on your phone, where you can lock it, fair enough. That's important. If you find yourself in a situation where you are lacking emotional oxygen, so to say, and perhaps, if I use the word intimacy, including not losing that connection with your own self. Intimacy doesn't have to have, a male-female connotation. You're also being intimate with your own self and your own feelings. Please, please do seek professional help. Just directly, if the purpose of this program is to help a person out there, even one person out of all the viewership you have, to be able to maybe just recognize a little bit, so to say, I feel that we've achieved something. One more thing I have to say is, and that's also true, is that never ever dim your candle because you got to make another person shine.
Absolutely.
I just had to say that.
Yes, it makes sense. Absolutely. You yourself is a candle, and both should light rather than one has to dim and two weeks to light other.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And these all things we gonna cover in our next series. What I would talk.
There you go.
So brilliant. That's what I call medicine for the mind. No dosage limit, just daily honesty and the humor, and start writing journal. So we have reached to our next and the last segment, Dr. Meena. It was so wonderful to have you, Dr. Meena, on the show. Thank you for sharing your journey with such honesty and strength, from personal survival to building healing system to leading transformation at a scale. Your life truly shows us that adversity can become the purpose. Before we close, I want to ask you one final question. As a woman who has lived both healing and leadership life, what is the one message you want to leave with a woman who feels stuck in there, or who are struggling today?
Mhm.
What message you want to give it to them?
Well, the strapline is, you are more than your illness.
Exactly.
Your illness may not have a name, may not have a diagnosis, but you are more than this. You have potential. You have unlimited potential. And rather than me giving you a theoretical lecture, I have walked in my patient's shoes more than once, having had to learn some pretty hard lessons myself. So take this as a soul sister,
Oh,
being able to say this to yourself, from this familiar stranger
to you.
to you, and from us to yourselves, to say that there will always be a way out of this. Hang in there, yet make sure you take some action, please.
This is so powerful, Dr. Meena. Truly inspiring. When I reflect back on today's conversation, on the pressure of being the good woman, the invisible struggles on leadership, I realize this. The strength we show in our personal lives is what gives us power in our professional lives. profit, performance, strategy, all of it works better when it's built on self awareness and inner strength. And for me, the truth becomes real during those 48 hours of my life when everything was taken away: my phone, my safety, my identity. And only one thing that remained with me was the decision to not break from inside. That experience removed my fear of failure forever. It taught me that my greatest asset is not my resume. It is the strong, steady place I built inside myself during crisis, and from that place I lead today. So, to every woman listening today, your worth is not in avoiding hardships. Your worth is not in your ability to race through it. Your worth is in your ability to rise through it. You don't need permission to start again. You don't need perfection to lead. You are a nurturer, you are a creator, and you are a force. So, thank you, Dr. Meena, for reminding us that healing is not the end of the story, it is the beginning of leadership. This was the shift where we talked about the people whisper about, so we can start living it with courage and courage. Remember, you can have it all, but only when you decide what all truly means for you. This is your freedom. This is your power. I'm Dr. Richa, and I'll see you in the next episode where we keep shifting the conversation that truly matter. Signing off from the shift for first season, and gonna see you very, very soon with the season 2, episode 5 of the shift.